Cybersecurity Strategy and Awareness Creation Plan. The Cybersecurity Strategy and Awareness Creation Plan was approved by Cabinet last year and is aimed at safeguarding the national critical information infrastructure. The launch was held at the Shipena Secondary School in Windhoek last week Friday under the theme, A Step Towards Cyber Resilience and Digital Security. And joining us with the details on the matter is Deputy Minister of ICT and the Ambassador of Cybersecurity, Emma Theophilus. Deputy Minister, good evening and welcome to the Daily Roundup.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Just to begin with, and in layman's terms as possible, perhaps you can just explain to us what the National Cybersecurity Strategy and Awareness Creation Plan is.
Well, the Cybersecurity Strategy and Awareness Creation Plan is meant to safeguard or to protect our critical information infrastructure, information related to our communications, telecommunications, energy, water, intelligence. All these are very critical infrastructure, and it's also meant to educate and create awareness amongst the public on how they can protect themselves as they continue to participate on online activities, because many of us are now going online but do not know the risks associated with being online. So this particular plan and strategy aims to actually do that.
Is there a growing scourge of cybercrime in Namibia?
Well, yes, as more and more Namibians, have access to data, have access to devices, and onto online spaces, many are venturing online a lot, and therefore the associated risks will come with that online activity. So the cyber attacks especially peaked during the pandemic. We have seen a drastic reduction, but we are still challenged with actually measuring the frequency of these attacks, because sometimes the institutions, whether it's banks or private entities, do not always make it known that they were under some cyber attack, because it might be associated with some reputational risk. So it becomes very difficult to properly measure and properly respond to cyber attacks. But the truth of the matter is, Namibia has been that country that has been victim to cyber attacks in the previous past.
And what are the most common cyber crimes, patterns that occur in Namibia?
Well, the biggest one is around scams. As more and more people use digital online platforms for banking, they fall prey to not knowing well how the platform looks like, and therefore they send money to entities they do not know or are not familiar with, or they go onto website thinking it's the bank's website when it's not, and end up putting their details into a software that actually replicates that information and actually goes out and withdraws that money from their bank accounts. And some, it's just scammers that would say, make a phone call, make it look like they're calling from an institution that is trusted, whether it's an insurance company or an institution of higher learning, to actually try to steal money from unsuspecting citizens, especially those that have come to use online spaces and digital means to transact, but are not very clear on what is authentic and what is not.
Yeah. The theme for this is a step towards cyber resilience and digital security. How does it tie in, the theme tying in today's digital era?
Well, as you know, His Excellency the President, Dr. Hage Geingob, about a year ago put together a task force, the Fourth Industrial Revolution Task Force, to look at digitally transforming our nation. And it's not a one entity's effort. It requires everybody to come on board and actually make changes in their particular sectors to actually realize a digitally transformed Namibia. So this particular strategy and this plan is government's commitment to actually preparing ourselves for one day digitally transformed Namibia. And these are only baby steps we're taking because we want, of course, to have citizens that are digitally literate. We want digital skills for the workforce so that they go beyond traditional jobs, because jobs are going online, jobs are digitalizing. So this is another step to ensure that we have the necessary protections as people continue to go online. whether through literacy, whether through skills, whether through employment, to actually know the safeguards to protect themselves on online platforms, and not to have a risky digital dependency without the necessary safeguards.
Yeah. And what would you say is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to implementing an effective cyber resilience plan?
Well, I think the biggest one is money, Nina. To digitalize requires a lot of money. The hardware and the software alone takes up a big chunk of any budget, let alone the expertise and skills, bringing somebody on board who has the necessary experience and the necessary qualifications, which don't come cheap. Because there's still so many emerging technologies. So it is very, very expensive. But government is constantly looking at partners to actually sort of offset the cost of actually reaching these gains. But the most important right now is actually putting the relevant legislative processes in place. We're busy drafting a number of bills. We're drafting a number of policies. We're drafting a number of strategies, all aimed to make a proper foundation, a bedrock foundation, so that when we do take off as a digitally literate nation, a digitally skilled nation, and a digitally transformed nation, all of that foundation is well rooted in our laws and policies.
And after that, because part of the plan is also to create awareness. So there's obviously some steps that comes into that. But what is the ministry planning around the awareness aspect of this plan?
We have already begun. So thankfully, we have had a private partner come on board. SALT Essential IT has come on board. We conduct sessions every week with civil servants in government to make them aware around the risks that come with being online. Especially government infrastructure and government communications can become an easy target because one, it's a large civil service. Many people are working for government, and sometimes we take for granted not changing our passwords every 3 months on our emails, or sometimes the server being down and then actually sending very confidential information or critical information via our private email accounts. So all of these are just a few examples on why it's necessary for us to actually do this awareness campaign, starting with government, starting at home, with our employees in the civil service, to make them more aware and more in tune with the risks that come with operating online, and how they can better safeguard not only their own information, but the state's information in this instance.
Fantastic. Your final remarks this evening.
Well, we have done very well so far in terms of rolling out some low-hanging fruits in terms of the session with SALT Essential IT. We're also looking at putting together more legislative abilities and policies to actually support the cybersecurity strategy. What we do need now is the support of the public to actually be willing to get this information and actually change some habits that have been they've been practicing, but also private sector to come on board and help us actually safeguard our critical national infrastructure. Because if that is at risk, it affects everybody, regardless of whether in government or private sector. So it's in all of our interests to ensure that our national information critical infrastructure is well protected and safeguarded against cyber attacks.
Deputy Minister Emma Theophilus, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Well, there you have it. We're going to take a short break, and the Daily Roundup continues when we come back.